Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I am John. What's going on, everybody?
And as always, we are joined by the Matts, Matt Casey.
I think it's the first time that both the Mats have been on in a while. And I guarantee you Hoagie drops off with his shaky computer pretty shortly.
Oh, we're going to find out. So, Hoagie, let's test it out. How you doing, pal?
Yes.
There it is.
Yes.
There it is.
On mute.
Can't hear a word you're saying,
Oh,
Hoagie.
Hoagie's muted. Oh my goodness. I think we need to. Should we fix it?
I mean, I'm telling you, he's got to be the behind the scenes guy.
Oh, hold on a second.
You hear me?
There it is. Damn.
When you introduced me, the intro was still playing in my headphones, but I could still see everybody.
Interesting.
Man. Between this and Derek's wind-up laptop, we're in for a hell of a night.
Let me get going here. All right. Yeah, we are in for it tonight. We got some good stuff to talk about here in regards to the All-Star break, which no one likes. The letter that John Tortorella sent out. The letter that John Tortorella sent out to the fan base. I want to make that very clear that it was John Tortorella, but we'll get to that. And then
John Gove.
Yeah, as opposed to John Gove, you
dear Flyers fans.
And a pairing on our defense that is the best in the league at something. Yes. So we'll foreshadow it and leave it at that. But first, we want to talk about All-Star Weekend and a couple other things in terms of some proposed changes across the league that Bettman discussed, which I think are going to benefit this league. But let's get into it here. So general thoughts. Let's start with you, John. What do you think about the All-Star game?
I mean, All-Star Weekend sucks.
Yep.
It's, I feel like the game is obviously incredibly gimmicky, but up until, I don't know, last year or 2 years ago, I didn't mind watching the skills competition. I would actually tune in, to, what was it, Friday, Saturday nights when you'd have like the hardest shot, fastest skater, like when they were actually like competing and showing off skill.
Mm-hmm.
But what are they doing now? Like playing golf on the ice and goalies are taking shots. It's turned into such a joke. There's zero competition. Like, I feel like either find a way to make this where the best players are actually competing and giving it their all, or just stop. I just don't see the necessity. I mean, I guess from like a money standpoint, right? And the market gets a bunch of money wherever it's hosted, but there's just no point to it in my mind. Like, create some sort of actual best on best tournament and forget this stupid thing.
That's all it is at this point. It's a money grab. Whatever city it's in every single year is going to get a ton of money from tourists, from people coming in just to watch what is billed as the best players in the league, which debatable.
Completely mail it in, though. They're not even playing.
And it's not even the best players in the league. Like, let's be honest. And I mean, again, say what you will about the guy as a person, but Kevin Hayes, come on, man. Like, I could think of a dozen other players. I could think of one or two on the Flyers. I could think of a player or two on our team that deserved it.
Nick.
But I guess before I get into my thoughts here, I'm going to go to Hoagie because we have matching mustaches here.
Oh, it's so creepy.
We're freaking found in a van somewhere.
Down by the river.
No,
all right.
I can't stand All-Star Weekend. It used to be exciting, like John said. What? Huh? Oh boy. No, it used to be exciting. It's not anymore. Was it all bad?
No, you're
Dude,
good.
just keep talking. Just keep talking.
You guys freak me out. I'm sorry.
So that we're gonna have to edit.
I actually watched it at a bar, and I was having a good time because I was a couple beers deep. But other than that, it's not exciting.
Agreed. Matt Casey.
It's an absolute circus. And I will tell you, the last time I actually really enjoyed the All-Star game, like Boys to Men, All Make Love to You was top of the charts. It was
classic.
It was 1994. That's what I was looking at on my phone. I was like, top. And I'm pretty sure the game was in New York City. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Like Pavel Bure, Mark Messier. Like, this is fun. From that point on, I was just like, all right, this is actually really stupid. The All-Star game means nothing. It means nothing. It's like, at least in MLB, I don't know if it still is, but it used to like decide home and away in the playoffs.
Right.
And so like, I don't think we could ever get to that point, quite frankly, but like the skills competition is a joke. You might as well have like clowns going around with a dunk machine. It's compared to the Flyers Wives Carnival at this point.
Right.
And so I just feel like I understand the moneymaker to do it. I would much rather be like, you know what? We're going to do extended winter classic in a non-market city and go in and bring 3 teams in and do a whole week of games. Do a round robin freaking tournament. Something like that, like Pee-wee style. Something a little bit more innovative that people are actually into, because right now this is a joke. And the only thing that I like about it is that our boys get, a week off, although they looked like absolute dog crap in the first period the other day. So, everyone gets some rest. I like that, but just end it. Just end it already.
To build on your point there, and I think it's a fantastic point, that neutral site, like a Lake Tahoe when the Flyers played Boston,
that worked out
bring in like a 6 teams, 3 games.
Right.
Why not?
Right. I want us to live Mystery Alaska. You guys ever see that movie where let's go to a random town in North Dakota and just build a rink and be like, all right, locals, show us what you got. And bust in the teams. Like Field of Dreams, this baby, like
Hockey
MLB
style.
is doing it right.
Right.
Yep.
Or
absolutely.
Or even go to, like, I always think of like Lake Placid, right? Yeah. A place that lives and breathes Olympic hockey and will never have an Olympics that ever again because just of how small it is. But how cool would it be if just the NHL just took over that town for a week and it was like they played meaningful games. Small, in front of small audiences, but it was just like meaningful games. You got an opportunity to go down to like Team USA store and meet a bunch of these guys, almost like the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. There's always just like random dudes signing autographs. Like that would be so much more interesting, I think, from a hockey fan perspective.
Make a weekend out of it. You could do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday game, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday afternoon, whatever time frame, it doesn't matter. But have the team from the 80s come in. Like have, all these veterans from the teams that are participating. Like if it's the Rangers, have Messier come in. If it's the Flyers, have Bobby Clark fly in. Like something that you can make an entire weekend out of. It's a big coup for the city that they're playing in. They'd be like, oh my God, it's great. All these people coming in. Same premise as the All-Star game, but a little more meaning.
I have a genius idea.
Oh boy.
Here
it comes.
So what are you talking about, me or the cat meowing in the background somewhere?
Meow.
So instead of like a skills competition, have the NHL players participate in other Winter Olympic events.
Yes.
So
the
like
luge,
the ski jump. Just imagine Ovechkin on the ski jump. Oh, Putin!
You want to see someone die? That's how you see him die. Like someone's gonna die.
But I'd watch it.
Bobsledding or the luge. You saw one of them's gonna wrap their body around one of those walls that like the guy did a couple years ago. Anybody remember that?
But for that little bit of time before the blood and the guts all over the snow, you'd love it.
It was internal bleeding. Like you didn't see any of it, but regardless, no, fantastic idea. I think that there's a way to fix All-Star Weekend. And if Gary Bettman, if you're listening, We just laid the blueprint there.
Which
for
he might be.
He could be.
He might be tuning in.
We'll take our chances.
I think down these notes that these gentlemen have put up.
These guys look legitimate.
All we
Batman
ask,
voice is back.
just make us the official podcast of that weekend, and we'll come in. We'll do a couple shows. We'll do play-by-play during the games. I don't care.
Boy,
the anti-All-Star weekend. That's what we call it.
Here we go.
Hoagie between the benches, but like holiday party Hoagie. How's it going?
But he can't figure out how to take himself
You're damn
off
straight.
the entire game.
Hoagie would squeal every time Scott Lawton skated by.
damn straight.
So, speaking of Bettman here, we want to talk about a couple changes that have been proposed that honestly, I think they're a fantastic idea, and I don't know why it's taken so long to do so.
But loosely proposed. I think it was more just like suggested.
Crosby brought it up.
Yeah.
I think McDavid brought it up too. They talked about the playoff format, and we all know how it is now. The top 3 teams from each division, 2 wildcard teams. Great, awesome, whatever. Getting back to the way things were before this format was implemented, the 1 through 8 seeding based on conference. That's kind of what was discussed, I guess is the best way to put it. So let's touch on that first before another topic, but we'll go reverse order here. Casey, what are your thoughts on that proposed format in terms of the playoffs?
I think it just makes the most sense because nothing frustrates me more than when what is it now? The Atlantic, we're the Metro division, then the other was the Atlantic. Like when you have the third place Atlantic division team who isn't even close in there. Now, I don't think that's the case this year. I think this year it actually like shakes out or is tending to shake out okay. But you see like when somebody's, in the third slot guaranteed a playoff position, and then you have 3 Atlantic teams who are duking it out with 10 more points than that third place Atlantic team, it's ridiculous to me. And it should be the top 8 teams that top 8 teams from a point standpoint. It's as simple as that. I do have a twist to it though, is I would be open to going into more of emphasizing the wild card a la MLB a little bit more. And so you get the guaranteed six teams in, and then you do a 3-game playoff with the next 4 teams to see who gets that bottom
like
2
a play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the NBA does.
I think it's awesome.
Like that.
It gives more people. It gives you now 4 teams incentive to actually bust their ass versus 2 teams.
But I think the counter argument to that is, does it water down the regular season a little bit? Like,
I don't think it necessarily does.
I think it emphasizes it a little bit more because if you have a shot at bottom 4 in the playoffs, you're
still getting the best teams.
Right.
You're not getting the third place or fourth place team from the Metro who has 10, 15 less points than the third, fourth place from the Atlantic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you do a best of 3. You make it, one and done. It can be a weekend basically. You have 4 days to play 3 games,
and it's more money. It's more money for the NHL,
right?
I
just don't.
And we do it in Lake Placid. Wait, what?
Yeah, we'll do it live. Hoagie, what are your thoughts on that proposed format?
I love the 1 through 8 conference play-in stuff. It's been 10 years since we've done that. I can't even remember the last time it was implemented, but I had fun during that time because you have a chance to bring down the top dog almost every
12 every
time. Yeah, it probably was. It was last year, right? I mean, I like Casey's thing, but that 14 playoff, you don't have the 10th place team or whatever, and people don't be pissed that a 10th place team is on the playoffs playing like number 1 and just rolling through everybody.
To be fair, people are going to be pissed.
I like it, but
yeah,
right.
They're going to.
You can't make anybody happy. I like the 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the 1 through 8's
go back to how it was.
Yeah, without complicating things and doing like something like that, what Casey had proposed, like the 1 through 8 makes the most sense in my mind. But like, if we really gave it some thought and looked into doing a type of play-in, kind of like how you have it in the NCAA with March Madness, you have it in, I believe, in the MLB as well. They play like a play-in game for the wild card, if I'm not mistaken.
And the NBA does a whole play-in tournament. I think it's like, I think it's exactly what Casey proposed. Actually, I think it's like the top 6 are
more
locked
teams in the mix. Like, I don't know. I think it's cool.
At the end of the day, it's more hockey. It's more
Right.
potential revenue for the league. Like, I think it's a smart idea. You know, I don't necessarily think it'll water it down, but like you're seeing the better teams play. It's not like you're just seeing Joe Schmo and like the 15th place team in the conference, you know, duking it out with the number 8, you know, seed.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd rather see that versus 84 game. Like, why not add that versus add in the 2 more games? You know,
right?
Yeah, it's 2 more games at the end of the day. Like,
Right.
big deal. You know. All right, John.
I mean, I got a few things here. I mean, the obvious one for me is like I like the 1 to 8. I don't like the bracket style, and like one thing that I don't think really anybody mentioned, but I'm sure we're all going to think about it is like I hate having those 2-3 matchups, and it's like Toronto and Tampa, where it could be, you know, an Eastern Conference final.
Yep.
You know, it's such a crappy thing for it to be a first round playoff matchup when those teams are clearly much better than having to play each other right off the bat. The whole idea of expanding it, though, my worry comes with like 1 through 8. I think you have a pretty good chance of like, okay, the top 3 teams are pretty established. Then you have like 4 through 6 is in the similar point area, but I worry about like 8 and then 9 being like 10 points lower. And then I just don't want teams that don't deserve to be in the playoffs to have a shot at all. You know,
But that's kind of what you have now with the way the format is laid out.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you'd really have to look at it, but like even in the Pacific Division's worst years, and I think it's still pretty much a dumpster fire, that whole division, but like I would imagine that the top 3 teams would still like make the playoffs in that 8-team format, like 1 through 8.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want another situation where it's the Montreal Canadiens going to the Stanley Cup final, and then all of a sudden they're the worst team in the league. You know,
like a 7-9, like a 7-9 Seattle Seahawks winning the division. Like that's what we want to avoid at all costs because they don't belong there. They don't.
And I wonder if there would be a way. I'm sorry, Derek. I just have one more thought, and then I'll shut up for 15 seconds.
Thank God.
I almost wonder if there's a way too where like you could take that idea and go, okay, 1 through 6, come game 72, you're locked in, and then they have a longer break between the playoffs, and it's like those. Then you wipe the clean slate between 8 and 10 or whatever it is, and it's like the 2 teams who have the most points for the end of this season.
That's dangerous too, though.
I don't want to make the playoffs longer than they are.
But think about it.
They start in April and they're done in August.
Think about like a worst case scenario there. Like if you've got a team that, you know, you wipe that slate clean, there's 10 games left, and they go 9-1-0, and the rest of the season in those 72 games, they lost 80% of their games. Like that's a chance that.
Well, I'd rather avoid this whole thing, but I'm just giving another alternative.
Well, I'll take it one step further, and I'm kind of in favor of this. I say conferences be damned when it comes playoff time. Like you can play like your conference schedule during the regular season. Take the top 16 teams. I don't give a shit.
Nightmare.
I don't care. The NHL can figure out the logistics of it. It doesn't faze me. But take that and then just seed them 1 through 16. 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15. Do it. Have some fun with it. Like screw it. I don't care.
And one thing you can do though is change the format of the game. Instead of going 2-2, 1-1-1, is you go to the MLB format, you know, and so that way you're not killing the ozone with
what is the MLB format?
So I think it's 3-2
and 2.
No, is it
no
3-3-1?
3-3-1.
No,
3-2. I don't know.
You're not going to go the 2-2-1-1-1.
Depends on the series.
Yeah, I think it's 2-3-2 maybe, something like that. Because I'm thinking of the Phillies. Like, didn't they play the last 2 games in Houston?
Probably,
maybe.
Yeah.
2-3-1-1.
So I think it's 2-3-2. I think it's 2. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Google
no, but I mean, like if you want the best hockey, you want the best teams. So take the top 16 from the league. Conferences be damned. Don't care.
Nah, I don't love it. I'm just like picturing Tampa Bay and Vancouver in an opening round. Like
awesome.
Right.
I'm all for it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
It would never happen.
Yeah, because you know what happens?
You're right.
That then attracts players to come and play in Philadelphia, where you can take a train to DC,
Right.
It's the hub.
New Jersey, New York.
See,
It's
where
a
my
trek
mind's
to
at.
get to
NHLPA
Columbus,
will get involved in that one.
So moving away from the playoff discussion here, let's talk about games themselves and the way that they end. Another discussion that was had, it was in regards to overtime rules, forcing a shootout after 5 minutes of 3-on-3. Now, John, refresh my memory here in terms of what was actually discussed and what the solution would be to getting rid of the shootout. Sorry.
I don't think that there was an actual solution proposed.
Okay.
I think it was really just more of like
getting rid of it.
People want to get rid of the shootout.
Yeah.
What are your
David
thoughts
was
on this?
A big one in terms of saying he thought it was pointless, I believe.
Well, and there's a lot of conversation about 3-on-3 as well, where it's like coaches have kind of been able to figure it out now, where like if you don't have an offensive opportunity like a rush, then you just bring it back. It's all about possession, and that's kind of killed the excitement of.
That's why we play 2 defensemen in 3-on-3. Because we're the Flyers. And I think it's a great idea and it's long overdue because the shootout just sucks. It's a skills competition that has no bearing. It should not have any bearing on who wins this game. So I guess let's throw out some suggestions here. How do you guys want to end a game? Let's start with you, Casey.
I say you stick with 5-on-5 for 10 minutes. If you go the distance, each team gets a point, but you end it at that. You go back. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was 5-on-5 overtime back in the day, and then it just ended. So you get ties. I'm done with it. And my issue is, number one, the Flyers are the worst team ever in shootouts. So like automatically we hate this. But the 3-on-3, it's a different hockey. You're basically playing pond hockey versus like structured team hockey. And it's literally a different style. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's go bowling. Oh, just kidding. We're going to go candlestick bowling. It's like a totally different kind of bowling. And so have you guys ever been to candlestick bowling? It's a blast.
Is it a real thing?
Oh yeah.
That's what you folks do up there in New York.
What?
It's like you got to find like an old school like resort in New England, and it's like a ball the size of like a bocce ball, and you just fling it down the lane. It's great. So I don't know. I just feel like the 3-on-3, it was exciting at first. You see a lot of breakaways, that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's not proving like a team's actual worth from a team standpoint, in my opinion. It's totally changing the game. So I vote you go 5-on-5 for 10. And if nobody pulls it, then you can get 1 point each. And then I would alter to say if somebody does win it, they get 2 points. The other team gets zilch.
I kind of like that. I kind of like eliminating that loser point.
Yep.
Yeah, and bringing back the tie. That's an interesting concept. Hoagie, I'm going to speak slowly here so that the delay doesn't seem so subtle. Tell me your thoughts on what you would do if you were the commissioner.
That's a hefty roll there. I like Casey's idea of 10 minutes. I'm sticking with 3-on-3. It's fun hockey. I like watching 3-on-3 overtime. Stick with the overtime loss or overtime tie. If no one scores, it's a tie. Both teams get a point if no one scores, whatever. Yeah, shootout's done. I can't stand it because the Flyers have just been historically terrible at it, and I'm just tired of it. I just think 3-on-3 hockey for 10 minutes. Keep on going, keep on rolling. Because people watch the 3-on-3. If someone sees a game going to 3-on-3 overtime, they'll tune into it. At least I do. I feel like more people get enjoyment out of the overtime than
me, one singular individual.
I know some people.
Seattle Columbus 3-on-3. I'm tuning in.
Okay, my turn.
Anyways.
Hell yeah.
So I almost agree with everything Casey said. I think you do 10-minute overtime 5-on-5. I like the idea of the winner in overtime getting 2 points and the loser getting nothing. However, my one little wrinkle in this, because I don't want people playing for ties at some point. No points to anybody if it's a tie. Because
interesting.
Then you've got aggressive hockey the entire time. Nobody is playing for the tie. Forget it. You either win this game or nobody gets nothing.
I like that.
Tying's like kissing your sister.
That. Interesting.
What?
I side with Hoagie on the 3-on-3. I think it's exciting hockey. It's fun to watch. It's more action packed than a 5-on-5. Like 5-on-5, you watch that for 60 minutes, and that wasn't enough. Set it to 3-on-3. That's the game
of hockey.
But right now, shootouts are the game of hockey too, and I don't like that.
Shootouts are a gimmick,
but they're part of the game. That's how they solve if overtime doesn't.
But you understand what I'm saying. Like that's not like how the game is played. I'd rather just keep it how the game is played without all of this like extra stuff. Like, look, 5 minutes into it, you'll start throwing dodgeballs at you.
Save your traditional bullshit. All right, let's
talk center ice. It's a center ice shot.
But no, hear me out here. I like the fact that
everybody gets
we go to 10
gun
minutes
and they spray
and
the
when
ice
we go 10 minutes, if we don't have a winner after that 10 minutes of 3-on-3, I think we do a best of 3 and the goalies go for shots. Not shootouts. Like I want full ice, full length, firing them at the net.
Better.
Best of 3.
Oh God!
So we're just doing the All-Star game again. Cool.
Let's do it.
All right. So me and Casey, we're smart. You two are morons.
No, John. I like the idea of the no loser point. I wasn't even thinking that. I was like, all right, everybody gets a little something for the effort here. But I think
you did good job.
What you would get there is 10 minutes of like playoff style hockey.
Right.
Like, which is, and then conversely, the third period, you're not playing for ties. You're trying to end that thing right then and there. And so like, I just think it puts more skin in the game. And then I don't know. I like that. I think it's enough of everybody gets a participation trophy.
And we're just happy we made it to overtime.
And you're pretty much risking everything too, because it's like, okay, I'm going to play an aggressive style of hockey and maybe I wind up losing the game. But if this game is tied, I'm essentially losing the game too.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. No, much more incentive to actually play to win the game as opposed to play to get a point.
It's a problem. It's a problem with the generations these days, guys. Like
these goddamn kids.
These kids these days. Back in my day, it was uphill both ways.
Oh boy. So let's get back to Flyer-centric talk here, and let's talk about the one big thing that came out this week: the letter from John Tortorella. And I cannot stress enough, came from John Tortorella. So before I start going off here, I'm going to kick it over to Matt Casey.
Because Hoagie seems to be texting.
Are you upset, John? Do you want to talk
pulled
first?
Up the letter
first. It's okay.
No.
You can
I want to hear
John.
I want to hear what other people have to say. Actually, I want to hear what other people have to say.
I care about your
This is
feelings
the
too, pal.
one time in my life that I'm going to say I want to hear what other people have to say. Just so go with it.
That's
so. Can we paraphrase the letter here, which was John Tortorella? Like, I'm proud of the guys. They've done well. We have some good stuff going. We are nowhere close. Like, am I
correct?
Basically,
paraphrasing?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We're not there. They still have some steps to take.
Yeah.
Right.
This quote: "This year was the first step in building the future of the Flyers and restoring our reputation as one of the most respected teams in hockey." Like that kind of sums it up.
I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. Like, I'm not reading into the fact that Tortorella sent it. I think it is the right move for him to send it because everybody. Chuck knows what's her name? Victoria?
Valerie.
Valerie.
Yep.
You know that nobody wants to hear from them. Like Torts is the face of the franchise right now, and that includes players. And so, like the fact that that's going out and basically admitting, like, we're kind of in a rebuild-ish kind of mode. I think it's great, and I think he hit it dead on. And I think, I'm glad they sent it. I wish they had sent it a year ago, but like, you know what? I don't think we were where we are a year ago. And so I think finally there's accountability, and I think they read the fact that people want to actually hear from the team, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't have to be rainbows and lollipops. We're not a Columbus franchise who's going to be like, oh wait, we have a hockey team. Like, we're psychopaths with the Flyers, and we want to see all this stuff, communicated to us honestly. And I think that's the first honest piece of communication we've seen from a quote unquote front office in a while.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Oh, I like that. Hoagie, what are your thoughts on the letter coming out?
I think Torts has been the most consistent person in over the past year in terms of this is where we are, this is where we're going. We need to build the foundation. We're building the foundation, but we still have more steps to take. He said it when he was first hired. He said it when the season started. He said it a month in. He's saying it now, and I appreciate that, because with Chuck, it was always, we're beating around the bush. We're beating around. It's a retool. It's this. It's that. Well, if this guy was healthy,
we're only 15 points.
He's just laying it all out there, and he's being honest. Right? Like, Torts is honest. Like, he knows this team is not going to be a playoff team. He's building a team for the future, and I just, it kind of comes back onto the conversation that we had earlier. Like, who's really the one pulling the strings? Is it Chuck or is it Tortorella? And at this point, I think it's Tortorella saying, hey, like, this is my team and this is where I want to take it for the future.
Yeah. So, John, do you want to go now, or do you want me to talk so you've got more ammunition?
No, I want to talk now.
By all means.
Johnny want wingy.
I mean, there's part of me that, like, truly does not care about this letter at all. I'm tired of this stupid letter thing. Ever since the Rangers did it and said, we're going to have a rebuild. By the way, Panarin and Adam Fox and all these beauties of people are going to be here in 2 years, but we're going to have a rebuild. So I guess I could just care less about the letter, but I mean, if I'm going to go a little bit deeper, I like Tortorella's consistent message. Similar to what Hoagie said, he has maintained this mentality since the beginning. He understands that it's a process. You can tell that, like, he is calling it a rebuild without calling it a rebuild. He might have even used the word.
I think he said
rebuild. He's used rebuild before, absolutely.
He has, he absolutely has.
But to just add a little bit more to it, I would still like to hear something from the person who is actually pulling the strings. Like, as the general manager, right? You are the one on the phone with other general managers, where I would like, and it doesn't have to be as elaborate as John Tortorella, but I'd like to just hear something that's like, we are on the same page. Like, just to echo what John said, this is what we're doing. This is the plan. Just so because my biggest worry is that we haven't been on the same page. I'm always worried that the owner's expecting one thing, the general manager's thinking another thing, John Tortorella is thinking another thing. Like, I need to see moving forward that everybody is thinking same vision. I mean, John Fletcher's probably just thinking about where he's going to spend retirement at this point. But, I'm okay with John Tortorella being the one who, like, conveys that message, but I still think it's important to get something similar from the general manager, because we need a unified front here.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting based solely off of the fact that it is coming from Tortorella, because this is typically something that would come from a front office. Somebody's racing out back, I guess.
Going on back there? What's happening?
Wow.
Good old York County.
I muted myself when the train went by.
Goodness. Oh, I thought that was the Polar Express going by Derek's house too.
Hey, he's taking the kid.
Hold on.
But the funny thing to me, though, is the fact that, again, it is going to be more well-received coming from John Tortorella, because they know, they've got their finger on the pulse of this fan base. They understand that a majority of us do not like Chuck Fletcher. Like, that's a fact. Do not
trust
like
Chuck.
You're right. No one trusts him after the moves that he's made recently. But, like, this also, I feel like, in my opinion, enables Chuck Fletcher to kind of hide behind Tortorella. Like, he's pushing Tortorella out there like, hey, buddy, you go do my dirty work. Like, I know I should be sending the letter, but I don't want to. Like, you go do it. And then subsequently, let's say, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we establish ourselves as a playoff team. Chuck can be like, yeah, I trusted John Tortorella to do that. And
you're saying Chuck Fletcher's going to be here in 2 to 3 years.
But here's the thing. If Tortorella is successful, he's going to ride his coattail. He's going to ride Tortorella's coattail.
Yep.
And if he is still with the team, he's going to be like, yeah, these are the decisions that I made. He just carried them out. And, I'm responsible for the actual decisions that were made.
To be fair, though, I'm sorry, Derek. I want you to keep
fair?
going. But to be fair, I do think, and I've said this before, I do think that Chuck Fletcher has shared a similar mentality to John Tortorella. I do think that he felt like this team needed to rebuild and he needed to collect assets, but ownership was pushing like, no, we can't rebuild. We need to try to turn this team around. Yeah.
But like as the GM, and this is speaking in terms of the person that he is, like I understand he's in a position where he needs to carry out things that may not come straight from him or
Bob Clark
is
and
the
Bill
best
Barber.
route. Yeah, the best route for the team. But like as a maybe this is the wrong way to put it, but like as a man, like as a person that is responsible for their job title, like at what point do you go to them and say, this is not the right route? Like, we need to be looking to rebuild this team or else we're just putting Band-Aids on bullshit. Like, at what point do you go to the upper management and say, listen, it's not working. Like, you got to hear me out here because you hired me to do a job and you're not allowing me to do that job.
Well, you think about it, but then you get the notification from your direct deposit and then you're like, oh, that's a little bit of a cool million this month will shut me
Fletcher's
up.
gonna find a job somewhere. Like as bad as that sounds, even if he were to go rogue and be like, no, screw you guys, I don't care about ownership, like this is what I'm doing, and they fire him, he'll find a job somewhere else.
Serving snow cones in Mystery, Alaska.
That's how hockey works, though. You can be bad at your job and still get a job somewhere else. It's the good old boys club.
So look, to Chuck's credit, the best move he has made as a GM is hiring John Tortorella.
Absolutely.
And I would have loved to have said that about AV as well, but I do feel like
he didn't even do that though. They brought in an external firm. He didn't want Tortorella.
No, but no, I don't know. I don't believe all of that. You don't not. If he didn't want a candidate, he wouldn't have hired a candidate. I think you go in.
But if he's not making the decision like ownership is, apparently.
No. But I
just
think
throwing that out there.
Any sort of
he was definitely in on the decision.
You're going to bring a vetting executive firm to come in and vet the hell out of them and go through every bit of their stuff, especially with somebody as divisive as Tortorella, which we went through all this summer. Like it's a corporation, and if you're hiring an executive of a corporation, you have to do that diligence. And teams that don't do it, you know what? They end up getting like alcoholic freaking coaches who have a vicious history, and that doesn't go too well either. Or God forbid,
the coach from the Bad News Bears,
like stuff like that. So like
Mike Babcock.
But I think that the fact that Chuck did hire him, okay, that gives me a little bit of faith. I think this trade, the next month into the offseason is going to be the make or break for Chuck. And it's like you got one last shot to try to make this thing right. And I'm not saying turn into a Stanley Cup contender, but you got to continue the trajectory up because Tortorella has done what he can with this lumpy mold of crap that he was given. And he's done a good job, but he needs help on the talent front.
But to John's point there, too, if ownership truly is pulling strings, is Chuck not handcuffed to make the moves that they want him to make as opposed to the moves that he thinks is right for this team right now?
I would think that my assumption is that Tortorella has more of a say into the personnel than you probably think.
Sure. I can see that. Absolutely.
It reminds me of in Platoon where like, you guys remember the movie Platoon? Like the classic in there. But like, how they keep on going to Barnes, who's played by Tom Berenger, who's like, a sergeant, but the lieutenant's like, hey, what do you think, Sarge? Like, that's the way I feel like Chuck is with Torts. He's like, so what do you think, Torts? Because like, ultimately Torts is going to be the one to be like, hey, like, I got to coach these guys. But also, if a player's not doing it and Chuck's the one that's signing, he's going to be like, this guy's dog shit. And he'll say it on the podium. And he might slam his hands down and do it.
Well, and I think that there's an
Slam or gently
understanding.
placed, because there's a discrepancy between.
Oh my gosh.
I also think that there's an understanding where it's like, if this team continues to fail, it's not John Tortorella that's the next man gone. Like,
Right.
this organization is committed to John Tortorella. You know, even though we're not a playoff team, you have to be happy with the steps he's been able to take to make this team at least like respectable.
On their way towards.
But so like Chuck Fletcher to me is the one that's hanging on by a thread. Like he has to run stuff by John Tortorella.
Yeah. And historically too, like Tortorella's teams in their first year under his tutelage haven't been like these, you know, just complete crazy, you know, juggernauts. Like there's a process,
right?
And it starts from the ground floor and it works its way up. And
the Flyers,
everything he's done is indicative of it.
The Flyers were probably his biggest mess to take over too.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
This late in his career, like undertaking something like that, what was he thinking?
Right. That's like 60 years old and being like, you know
always
what, I want to be a father.
Right.
Like, I want to learn astrophysics. I want to be an astrophysicist. Like, sir, you're 75 and you're on a ventilator. Like, come on. So
Chuck's been here what, 5 years at this point?
No, really?
No.
Oh my God.
Or is it 4?
Really?
He was the general manager when we started the show.
He was. It's at least 4 years.
4 or 5 years.
Established
So,
2019. There you go.
We've been doing this for 4 whole years.
It's felt like a lifetime.
What the hell?
What's the average shelf life of a GM? I'm just curious. I really don't know.
You can ask what's the average shelf life of a podcast.
Not this long, baby. Not this long.
How much longer we got on this?
I mean, the GM, I would assume 5 to 7 years.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like what a coach these days is 3 years?
30 to 4, yeah, I would say.
Of the coach?
Unless you're like Tomlin in the NFL.
Right.
He's got dirt. He's got dirt on somebody. So, any final thoughts in terms of the letter? Anything else that we want to discuss from it, or should we move on here to some good news?
Good news.
Good news. Good news. Let's get good news rolling here. So, part of the Flyers High and Wide chat on Twitter, I believe it was Paul, if I'm not mistaken, had brought up a very interesting point where one of our pairings is the best in the league at suppressing high-quality chances against in a minimum of 200 games. Don't ask me to get into the fantasy stats.
No, 200 minutes.
200 minutes minimum. Yeah. Rasmus Ristofrickin-Linen and Nick Seeler are the best pairing in the NHL when it comes to suppressing 5-on-5 quality chances against with a minimum of 200 games played. Fellas, we have finally reached a point where Rasmus Ristolainen is an analytical darling.
Yes.
Mission accomplished. Fancy stat aside, advanced analytics aside, without getting into it, John, tell me your thoughts on just the. Honestly, I think the word I'm looking for is irony here.
Oh yeah, I mean, suck it, nerds. Like, that's pretty much all I've got. You know, stand up there on your podium. F your podium, man. This is what you get. Right? It's like they root for Jordan Wheel. He's the next one to be the top dog. Who is that? Who is that fourth liner every year? They're like, oh, we got to sign this guy.
Matt
Shore. Nick Shore.
Nick Shore.
Who's
so?
I
mean, I'm a little worried if Ristolainen is the new Nick Shore, but I mean, I like it because I think we found a role that works for him. You know, I think that, you know, he can play this role on the defense and we can be like, okay, we don't have to worry about this. He's steady here. Obviously, I think, you know, when you look at the contract, you wish he could do a little bit more offensively. But I don't got to pay the guy. So I'm glad that he's put in a spot where, you know, he's succeeding because we're Risto fanboys. And also anytime that you can shove your fist up a nerd's hoo-ha. I'm like, let's do it.
What the hell? I don't even know where to go with
Is
this.
that the name of the episode? Is Fist in the Nerds?
Up the hoo-ha.
By the way, we don't talk about Kevin Hayes.
For the 8th episode in a row, we refuse to talk about Kevin Hayes.
Well, we just now mentioned him, so it's a moot point. But regardless, Hoagie, what are your thoughts on this? I feel like they're going to mirror somewhat of what John's are.
Somewhat.
Yeah, maybe not as extreme.
Woohoo! I guess I when it comes to analytics, I could care less. Like this stuff makes my head spin. I just don't get it.
What,
but yay, good for Risto.
Per Prussian fire on the ticker.
Yeah, he's the one that tweeted it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He's the one that tweeted it.
All right, I thought maybe that was a spelling error.
All right,
it was not.
Matt Casey, your thoughts on the revelation that we have a top tier pair when it comes to suppressing 5-on-5 quality chances?
Oh boy,
what's it all mean?
Ultimately, I don't know. Percent, I hit her. I don't know. Those letters don't max.
Percent ire.
But I'll say this: that two of the defensemen who I think we noticed just from a viewer and a fan standpoint who have played very well. Nick Seeler was a shock to me. Ever since the beginning of the year, I was like, damn, man, Seeler, he's not just kind of a guy out there punching and then jumping in every fourth game. Like, he's actually playing decently. And Ristolainen, I think you guys know that I've always been a big fan. I think if this coaching staff has done anything, it's really try to help him become the player that they think he can be. And so, look, I think we've seen it on the ice. Everyone's like, oh, they're a third pairing. They're going against lesser talent. Like, shut up, you freaking pills. Like, just be happy. These guys are playing well. If they play well against other people, great. They're going to have their shares of ups and downs. I'd rather have somebody number one in the league in this ridiculous stat that I've never paid attention to than last in the league in that, which I'm sure we probably had in the last 2 years anyway. So I think, let's enjoy it. Let's be happy with the fact that Risto and Seeler have some chemistry. You never know. You never would have thought that Matt Carl was the Pronger whisperer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just never know what's gonna feed through. So I'm all for it. Keep doing well, boys.
I'm interested to know if it's that big of a difference, but the second pairing there, Mayfield and Aho with the Islanders, Seeler and Risto are 0.1 better in this category. So I'm wondering if that's a big gap or a small gap, because it's like a 1.91, 1.99. Like, I can't decipher it.
Somebody create a graph.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they're all clumped in there.
I mean,
they are.
If you put it in a spirograph model.
Speaking of graphs, did you guys see the remaining games?
The remaining game, like that crazy graph that looks like that weird stencil you used as a kid. Yeah, I don't know what the hell to make of that.
Yeah, did you see that one? That made me
Dude, it made me nauseous.
I don't get it.
I looked at our schedule though, and I was like, damn, we play like 4 games this month. We have so many days off. It's great.
Back to backs this weekend, noon and 12:30 and 1 o'clock.
Right.
I'm all for a Flyer game at 1 o'clock on Super
I got to go to
Bowl
a
Sunday,
wedding
though.
on Saturday. I'm like, I'm gonna be tuning. I'm gonna have my headphones in.
Marriage is overrated.
It is. Don't tell my wife that though.
Love you, honey.
You too, babe. But in terms of this, absolutely, it's ironic that a guy that most analytic followers will call him.
You can say all
of them. Yeah, I'll generalize. All analytic followers just do not like Rasmus Ristolainen, and this guy is leading a category in an analytic category in whatever the hell it is. Fantastic.
Do you think it's because they struggle spelling his name, where they just really have a hard time putting him on a graph?
I just don't think they like him because he's a big physical guy. That's what it is. But
they're just jealous of him.
I want to see the responses for some of the people, and you know the people that we're talking about, the Stevie Heat Maps of the world. Like, I would love to see their response to that. Like, should we tweet it out from the Pod Street account and like tag these guys in it and be like, hey, what are your thoughts?
I want to see. I legit want to see a heat map or a graph or a plot chart or whatever these people do these days.
A player card, like, look, he's 0% in the offensive zone.
Like a star graph.
I don't care. He's hot right now. Risto's so hot right now.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. Being better than a pairing of Connor Clifton and Hampus Lindholm. Like, that's great. I'm cool with it. And Nick Seeler, a guy that everybody hates too. I mean, just the people that these people hate being good at something. I love it. I want to rub it in all their faces.
Is Seeler now in play at the trade deadline?
I think he's got an extra year.
That's a building block for your core, Casey.
Yeah, we didn't touch on it last week, but
5 times 5.
No, Sealer, not Risto. Sealer.
I mean,
no, I heard you.
Who else on the blue line realistically are you going to trade? Braun, because he's on an expiring deal. You're not going to get a deal for Provorov. You're not going to get a deal for Ristolainen. Tony DeAngelo, maybe.
I think Tony's in play.
I think Tony's. So you're going to get a better return for DeAngelo than you are for Sealer. So I would probably prioritize putting DeAngelo out there, dangling him as trade bait.
Yeah.
But if all else fails and Brass says no, we're keeping DeAngelo, I think you'll get more for Sealer than you will Braun.
I tend to
controversial.
Sealer's actually playing.
Like, yeah, and he's earning it.
He's just Provorov's warm up dummy right now. Like, he only gets on when Provorov doesn't warm up.
Oh Jesus!
It was one time.
Actually puts his jersey on too.
We're past this. We are so far past this.
Some people aren't.
Some things never die, but no, I mean, I'd be interested to see. Like, we're probably going to get like a 3rd or 4th rounder, if that, for a guy like Sealer at the deadline. But there's,
which I don't think we should do. By the way.
I mean, if somebody offered us a 3rd rounder for Nick Sealer, sign me up.
I'd shit my pants. I'd be like, that's a Ronaldo.
That's like the Zach Ronaldo trade to Boston.
Is there an echo in here? Holy shit.
It's delayed.
No, I mean, it's cool. I think it's cool they're leading this category. I think it's fantastic, but that's really all I've got to say about it.
Can we stop now? I gotta go to bed.
Oh, John, go to bed.
Sweetie.
I got
buddy.
I got a 6:30 a.m. flight tomorrow. My kids are like not going to be happy with me.
They'll get over it. All right, Hoagie, it's time.
It is time. This comes from a listener's recommendation. Derek, do you want to help me out with the name here? This one's
I'm pulling it up right now. So a buddy that DMs me along with the podcast from time to time here, he gave us a dad joke here for this week. He recently had a friend pass away as well, so my condolences to him. But in honor of that, we're going to have Hoagie tell the dad joke that he proposed. So, John, shut the hell up and let him tell it.
I didn't say a thing.
Shh. I said shut the hell up.
Some vegetables went to a Chinese restaurant and learned a new karate move. It was called tofu.
So you can find this podcast at all.
Oh, wait, no, but somebody submitted that, right? Oh, great joke. That one was really funny. Great joke.
Oh, that's the one. All right. Dad joke aside, Hoagie, let them know where they're going to find you.
He's drowning himself right now.
Pod Street Hose on that dying bird app.
And Casey.
Why do we keep him around?
Street Casey. By the way, I tried to follow someone today, and they're like, "You can no longer follow people." And I was like, "What?" Follow? I'm like, "All right."
You've been blacklisted from following people. That's a new one.
Twitter was broken for quite some time.
Someone unexpected got your pictures, Casey.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
All right, John, give me your spiel.
You can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles. I think we're on all of them. So
should be
choices, freedom
There
to
you go.
choose. There you go.
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at PodStreetBob.
That's
John's
not
on
what that
Twitter at
means.
PodStreetGove. It's not.
Oh.
But you can find all four of us on Twitter at PodSDBullies. Check out our affiliates as well. The guys over at Flyers High and Wide, they're on Twitter at FlyersHW. You can find the 5 Minute Major podcast, David Mastro. They're on Twitter at 5 Minute Major Pod, as well as the fine fellows over at the Hockey Focus. They're on Twitter at the Hockey Focus. But until next week, folks, enjoy the few games that we have, and we will be seeing you again at that time.
Bye now.